Hey guys, it's Pastor Roy here. I have to apologize to you. Our first chew in the Joseph series did not record well. And so you're going to have two different videos. They're maybe about 10 minutes each, just to kind of summarize those sermons. So if you missed one, you didn't miss everything. So without further ado, here is the first part of this series, Genesis 37. This is a series, by the way, Joseph, A Journey from Pit to Purpose. And we'll be through this until we get to the Christmas season. In Genesis 37, this sermon is entitled When Dreams Fall Apart. So Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the son of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the son of his old age. And when he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." Though when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept this saying in mind. God's call is something that may isolate you. We see this in Joseph's life. Joseph is actually the second youngest in his family. It's among brothers. He has 11 brothers. Only Benjamin is younger. He is his dad's favorite. Now, this tale is set up about 2000 BC. There's some that disagree with that, but that's about the time frame that I use. And there is some archaeological evidence that perhaps we'll get to on a Wednesday night in the future that indicates that this is true, and also what the events that happened in Egypt are true. We know, of course, God's word is true. But we also see here that Joseph has this a couple of dreams, and he tells his brothers. Now, there's already sibling rivalry; it's a real thing. Many of us experience it, but even more so, his father was showing favoritism to him, which isolated him from his brothers. But even beyond that, he began to have these dreams, and so his brothers called him a dreamer. We'll actually see that in just a moment. They call him that, or he's called this 13 times in this Joseph account. And it's usually used as an insult, although later that changes. Now he dreams, and of course, the dream his brothers and even his mom and dad understand. They see that this is a dream of Joseph becoming prominent to the point that the others bow down not to worship him, but basically that he is their master. He is calling the shots, that they're subservient to him, that he is their leader. And for the second youngest son to have the temerity to say that, his brothers did not like it very much. And in life, we oftentimes, when we're pursuing God's will for us, that call can be relatively isolating. I gave this example on Sunday that there was, of course, a rubber craze that happened here in the early 19th century. The problem with rubber at the time was that if it got too hot, like it is almost all the time in Houston, it was very gooey and tacky. If it was very cold, then it became very brittle and unusable, and you'd continuously have to reapply this stuff. They saw that it was useful, but they didn't have a way to stabilize it. There was a man, though, that felt like it was his purpose to do something more. And so while everybody was in the rubber craze, everyone was looking for a solution to stabilize it, but a lot of people went bankrupt. A lot of people gave up. But one man in particular, what his whole life revolved around rubber. He ended up, even on his wife's stovetop at home, he would try to cook up different concoctions and figure out what might actually work to stabilize this. And by accident, one time, he spilled a bit of rubber. It infused with some sulfur that was there on the oven. Heat got in the mix, and it stabilizes. We call it vulcanized rubber. And so sadly, he wasn't able to reproduce this for a long time afterwards. Of course, a lot of people forsook him. A lot of people thought that he was crazy. His wife thankfully did stick by him. He did amass about $5 million of debt in today's time. And a lot of people thought he would never be a success. Yet, his name, Charles Goodyear. You heard it right, Goodyear. Tires, you've heard of that before. He's somebody that we remember, and we don't remember a lot of people really from that day and age. unless he made it an incredible success. But this breakthrough had massive benefits for our society today. Imagine a world without rubber, without cars, without insulated wires, without a lot of different things. The world would be different and not necessarily for the better. So God's call, just like it was for Charles Goodyear, I'm not saying God necessarily called him to do it, but he felt like that was his purpose. When God calls us to do something, that can sometimes isolate us from people around us that don't really understand that call. Certainly Joseph was experiencing that. God's plan may also confuse us. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to them, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now and see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron and came to Shechem. And a man found him wandering in the fields, and the man asked him, "What are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock." And the man said, "They have gone away, for I've heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from far away, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. That's a little bit severe there. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer," there that word is. "Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he is the oldest, by the way, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of the hands to restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it, and then they sat down to eat. And looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing gum, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell to him to the Ishmaelites, and let us not lay a hand, or let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him. And then Midian traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him up out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes and returned to his brother and said, "The boy is gone, and where shall I go?" Now, we don't see Joseph's reaction here, but undoubtedly it has to feel like betrayal from a couple of standpoints. One certainly is from his own family, his own flesh and blood, that they were initially mad at and angry enough at him to kill him, to murder him. And then they're like, "Well, let's just teach him a lesson and throw him in a pit." That was Reuben's idea, to rescue him later. And then Judah gets this bright idea that he said, "You know what? This is no profit. Let's make some money off of this too." How horrific to have that happen to anybody, much less be done by your own kin. Now, Joseph also likely might have felt betrayed by God. Again, God had given him these amazing visions, not just once, but twice, of what the future would be. And all of a sudden, his family has forsaken him. They turned their back to him, and he's being sold into slavery into a land that he's not familiar with. And the odds of him ever seeing the light of day again, ever being a free man, and ever seeing his family are slim to none, except God. God is in the middle of this, and in the middle of God's plan, oftentimes his plan can look very confusing to us. Oftentimes, the world looks at us when we are following God's will and things are just not going well in our life. They start to say, "Where is your God? I thought that you worshiped a God that was in control, that loves you. He's sure not treating you like this. What is up with that?" And that can oftentimes happen. But we need to continue to be like Joseph and be faithful no matter what, which we'll see in the next account. So the final point here, God's story is still unfolding. Then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in blood. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This is what we found. Please identify whether it's your son's robe or not." And he identified it and said, "It's my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "No, I shall go down to Sheol to my son mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him into Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. From his father's perspective, Joseph was a goner. From his brother's perspective, likewise the same. And even from Joseph's perspective, things looked pretty grim. And yet we know how this account ends, that Joseph ultimately will become second in charge of, at this time, the most powerful nation in the world. And that his prominence, his position, ends up not just preserving his own life, but his entire family, that family that betrayed him, yes, and many, many others as well that are in Egypt. And so this is an incredible story of a man's faithfulness despite everything. When we're in the middle of what God is doing, now it's easy with Joseph, we can see the end and that works out really well. But we can oftentimes forget that in this life, for us, we're still in the middle of the story. Now, the good news is, if you read the Bible, you know that in the end, God, of course, wins, that He is sovereign over all things, that Jesus, God's Son, will return. He will judge the quick and the dead. He'll create a new heavens and new earth, that the old enemy of death, sin, and all of that will be abolished, that Satan will be sent and bound to hell, and things are glorious and good. And so we know that the end is good. We just don't know what happens between now for us and until that time as well. So life can be difficult, it can be a challenge, but I want to encourage you to continue to be faithful. Even when it feels like God's plan has gone awry, He is still in control. Keep seeking Him and keep serving Him, and may God bless you in the journey.